Three.
Keep going. 3, 2, 1.
2, 1. And welcome back to episode 22 of Chasing the Racing with the lovable Dom the Bomb Herbertson.
And opposite me is that ball bag of a teacher, Chrissy Rouse.
And this podcast is sponsored very kindly by Incontango Training, a leading finance, risk and treasury consultancy, but more importantly, road racing fans. So big thanks to Incontango Training for sponsoring yet another podcast. Really appreciate the support. And straight into the pod, Dom. Straight into the pod. So we've got plenty to talk about. Obviously, you've just came back from Armoy. It's been a couple of weeks since our last podcast, so quite a lot's happened in the world of motorbike racing. But before we get onto the topics, how's things? Have you been up to much since our last pod?
Well, because you're always professional, Chrissy, let's talk about the unresounding issue, right, of the fact that I've left you outside the front of the house for 40 minutes. Can you, the door wasn't locked, right? I was out the back, sorting myself out. That sounds like I was having a wank. I wasn't. But I was sorting my van out for the day of work that beholds me tomorrow. And Chrissy, God love him, they don't make him like Chrissy Rouse anymore. Let me get this across, right? The lad's a gentleman. He's knocked twice, he's rang on the doorbell, and he feels like he's disturbing everyone else. And he's stood out there for 40 minutes. 40 minutes, didn't you, young'un? 40 whole minutes, haven't seen you in 2 weeks. In 40 minutes, you've just wasted your life.
Well, your van wasn't out the front where it usually is, so I thought you... I don't know, I thought you were busy, and I couldn't get through to your phone, and I knocked at the door, no answer, so I didn't see what else I had to do. But
I do apologise.
That's a story for another day anyway.
This is me licking your arse for the next hour. I'm telling you, I'm so sorry, Chrissy. I'm so sorry.
I've just actually thought before we get on to the podcast, I did promise that I would do a little shout out. I've got some good friends of mine, Tony, Jeanette, Marcio, Luke, and 10 other guys are doing a bike trip from England to Portugal and back. So I don't know how many days they're planning on it, but I
can imagine it's a few, mind. I can barely pedal to the bloody post box. Never mind going to Portugal.
So that's maybe something we could maybe do over one winter.
Just straight out. No.
Trip. I've actually booked me CBT for Monday. I'm doing me CBT.
You don't have your bike license?
No. I've never rode a bike on the roads. So at the tender age of 23, I'm booked up to do me CBT.
You're 23.
23.
Jesus, the things you find out about your mates on a podcast. Jesus Christ, bloody
so
right.
Looking forward to that.
Yeah, and hold on. Wait, whoa. I tell you what, right? The worst thing about going on the road, it'll slow you down,
Well, I'm not planning on doing much road riding. I've only got a little ped, so I thought since I've got it for the paddock, and I just thought because it's so cheap, just nipping up and down. I'm not planning on giving it big licks up the hard side or anything.
Oh no,
so don't worry.
But the mad thing is, I've discussed that with a few people. What's his name, man? Barry Sheen's mate, the one with the hair, looks
Steve
like
Parrish.
Brush. That's him. Aye. He was saying he would never ever look backwards on the TT course, and he would stay away from riding on road bikes. And I know loads of people like that, that don't ride on the road, because when you're riding on the road, you've actually got to go slower.
Aye.
And when you hop on a bike, well, obviously your mentality, every time you get on a 1000cc, you've got to be going flat chat with your balls out, haven't you?
Aye.
But obviously when you get on the road, you've got to be Mrs. Meggins and look after your licence. And obviously I'm not being melodramatic, you don't know what's around the corner.
Yeah. Well, you've got a little monkey bike for the roads, haven't you?
Well, I've got me full, that's how I got into it. I got into it when I was 21. I got me road licence first, because then I didn't have to go to race school. Obviously, being on the road and that, I was going up and down to work on my bike. I'd strap my chainsaw to the back of my mud guard. Right, I'm telling you, going up the road in the snow gun. Daddy wants cheddar. Going up the road, I was hungry as hell.
So when did you stop riding on the road properly?
The first day I did my track day.
Oh, obviously that's it. You just straight switch to the track.
Well, no. Well, actually, my older sister, blonde thing. Don't look her up. She is better looking than me. So do not look her up, Chrissy. I'll thong you, young, and I'll absolutely thong you. But no, so she has an R6, and occasionally she lets me out on that, and obviously I actually only feel comfortable on the road now when I've got someone else on.
Right.
on the back.
Mm-hmm.
Because
To keep yourself.
it actually does, because you almost think you're not really riding a bike. You start to enjoy it more, and I do love riding on the road. But when you're by yourself, you just turn into a dick. Like you just think, right, here we go, let's go for it. Anyway, classic dominant. Totally diverged from the conversation that we had planned here.
Have you got any tips for me CBT?
Check your blind spot. Check your blind spot, because honestly, I went out, like I had an erection in the neck. I'm not kidding. It was just like straightforward. I'm surprised I passed my test, because obviously checking your blind spot and everything like that. But that's to all road users.
I tell you what, I had. Do you know how I had Alan Carter on the podcast a few weeks ago?
Aye.
And obviously won a Grand Prix when he was 18. He then went to do his bike test, and he failed his bike test for not using his back brake. But obviously us racers, we don't really use a lot of us don't use back brakes going into the corners.
Well, someone said to me, back brakes on bikes are like nipples on men. They're only for show. They don't actually do anything. It's like, all right, no bother.
But is that a thing, like, for on the roads? Do you have to use your back brake?
Like at junctions, so it's like it's basically like a hill start, so it's like a handbrake.
Oh,
so
right.
You can imagine, so you've got to actually hold the bite whilst with having the rear brake on.
Oh, right.
And you've got to go off.
Oh, wait. I'll have
Good luck on your CBT, youngin.
I'll have to brush up on these skills. But I tell you what, another thing before we get into the podcast, we've got a little competition that we're going to run from now until the next podcast. And do you know Billy Art? At Billy Art on Twitter.
I don't know him personally, but I've seen his work, and it's phenomenal.
Phenomenal artist. He's he actually did a proper drawing for me, which I used for a logo back in 2013.
Is this like the Titanic? You know what I mean? You had a blue diamond around your neck, like maybe like one of your French girls, Billy.
Okay, but
Chrissy, you're a good-looking lad. I won't judge.
He's an awesome artist, and he's very kindly got in touch, and he's offered us he did a painting of Jonathan Ray. It's called Four of a Kind. So it's in the sort of gold colours with
hopefully
the number 1.
That means nout.
He sent us a 3-minute 3-minute like sort of time lapse of him actually painting the picture, and he's given us an A3 artist proof print, which you can't buy off them, and we're going to put it up as a competition. So to win this, I'll show you a picture just now.
I was about to say, can you put that up on Twitter?
Yeah, I'll put the pictures on Twitter.
The time lapse one, because
sure. I'll share that. And to win this competition, me and Dom have just discussed what we could possibly ask, and we've came up with the idea of
dick pics. That was Chrissy. That was definitely Chrissy. I was more boobies in your face kind of guy, but classic Chrissy with his dick pics. You know?
So to win this A3 Four of a Kind picture of Jonathan Ray by Billy Art, you've got to send in a selfie, but it's got to be something with incorporating racing. So either like a motorbike, wearing a motorbike shirt, or holding.
If there's any ladies out there with motorcycle bras, that'll be grand.
Holding up something motorbike related, or it's. And basically, we'll pick the funniest / best one. So
be creative. Be a silly selfie.
Yeah, be creative, make us laugh, and we'll pick one for the A3 print, which, like you say, you cannot buy. So it's quite a special.
You can't buy. It's hand done. You can't. This is a proper piece of art.
Yeah,
literally.
Yeah,
so you know,
I'll post the picture. It's a mega drawn, like so.
You got to retweet. And you got to leave a 5-star review. I'm just adding all these things on here. What else do we want? We want diamonds. Lots of diamonds.
Also, so yeah, I would just like thank Billy Art for giving us that to use as a competition. Really kind of him. And check him out on Twitter. It's at Billy Artist. What's that?
Did you like the podcast?
I think so.
He's a good lad, isn't he? What a lovely lad.
Lovely man. So I think that's all the things I've got to say before we get on.
And that's the end of the podcast. Thank you for joining us on episode 22.
So for topics for this week, obviously we've got Armoy, which incorporates, we've got quite a lot to talk about from there. Also, the return of Oliver's Mount at the weekend. I nipped down on Saturday, so a little bit about that. BSB Snetterton was not the weekend gone, the weekend before. So obviously we've had like 2 weeks off the podcast, so a little bit of a crack about that. And also it was the it seemed to be like the weekend of endurance racing this weekend. We had the Suzuka 8 Hour, which a lot of the BSB lads were overdoing, and World Superbike lads. And also there was a 10-hour no limits endurance race down at Anglesey, which have you ever done any endurance things other than the Moped Mayhem?
But the Moped, no, that's that is a seriously high standard of racing, Moped Mayhem. I'm telling you. But no, it's I tell you what, that is something I would absolutely look like. Ever since seeing the programme TT Legends, you know, Cameron Donald.
Yeah.
This is terrible. John McGuinness and Simon Andrews.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they did where they did all the endurance rounds, and it's something I would love to absolutely do. You know, it's very much on my bucket list. A 24-hour race would be amazing.
Aye.
What about you, son?
I've done the Moped Mayhem a few times, but I think that's it in terms of endurance racing.
You've peaked in your motorcycle career now. You know what I mean? Teesside, freezing your balls off.
I think it's something I would like to do later on in my career. Maybe I would like try and while I'm sort of young and whatever, I'll try and do as much sprint racing as I can, what I do. But I think
hold on, if Mr. Suzuka or whatever, Mr. Japan turns up and goes, do you want to do this? Yeah,
obviously, if the opportunity rose in the next few years, I would love to. But I think if you were going to do racing purely for a hobby with your mates, I think the no limits endurance series that they do looks absolutely mint crack. And when I've been there at the meetings and watched it, we've talked about it before, but I think it's the same sport, but it's got an extra string to its bow, and it's much more sort of team orientated and stuff. So maybe something to do for a bit crack and a bit practice. But
Chrissy, you're a professional rider. You haven't enjoyed a day's race in how many years now, son? You know, you're there to win.
I tell you what, before we get on with the topics. Since our last podcast, obviously, we'll come to Armoy, so leave that. But other than that, have you been up to much?
Nah.
I tell you what, after the last podcast, we had the North Yorkshire night, which you hosted. You did a great job, and it was a proper good laugh. It was like the TT night, so we had quite a few lads there. And
pretty much, I took the piss out of every TT rider that came through the door there, including myself.
But no, that was a proper good night. Had a good laugh, and then other than that, you're just been flat out work, and then bikes.
It's just a blur between trees and tarmac. That's all it becomes. All it becomes. So no, it's not like. No, nothing. Nah.
Not much to report.
Chrissy, you know me. No crack. Gotten out.
Well, not last week. The week before, obviously, we had Snetterton. I'll come to BSB Snetterton. We'll talk about the superbikes and stuff. But on the way down to the racing, after having Alan Carter on the podcast, he actually invited us down to stop off at his house on the way down. So
it's a good thing you're the good-looking one out of us two, because I never got that invite.
And I just finished reading his book again, and stopped off, had a Chinese, and had a sort of nice night. And he actually helped us out quite a bit at Snetterton, so I really enjoyed that. Down at Snetterton, I didn't have such a great weekend. I struggled in practice and qualifying around the sort of 9th, 10th mark. But when raced, we made a few changes to the bike, which really helped for the race, and got down into some good times and almost made the podium. I started 9th on the grid, got a real good start, and was sort of battling my way up. But I ended up finishing 5th. So there was Taylor Mackenzie 3rd, Billy McConnell 4th, and then I was 5th.
Where the hell's Billy McConnell come from? He's kind of just been...
He's been off the ball because he had a medical, what was it, a hernia problem or whatever. Right. So he's missed loads of the racing this year.
Are you ahead of him in the championship?
Yeah, he hasn't finished many races because he's been off on medical grounds. But he came back.
Get in. Sorry, Billy.
I'm glad to see him back there. He's a lovely lad, and he's to have such a gap and then to just jump straight back and be straight up the sharp end, you've got to take your hat off to that. So good on him.
How many lads have been obviously I know you had a little bit of horsehole, at superbike level, but when you think Coops is ex-superbike,
Taylor McKenzie, Luke Hedger is, I think that's it, isn't it? Lee Jackson.
So really, everyone ahead of you is a legit superbike experience rider, when you think the amount of track time they get, everything, the power, like,
Well,
I hop off a big bike, Chrissy, and I hop on a 600 and it feels like a BMX.
Well, the Superstock 1000 class is a real strong competitive field this year.
Oh,
and
without a doubt.
There's, especially the sort of top 6 who are, fantastic riders, but even below top 6, down to like the top, to get in the points this year is, real competitive.
Where do you have to finish to get in the points?
15th.
All right.
Do you know Joe Collier? Have you heard of Joe Collier?
Yeah, a Aprilia rider.
Well, he was riding for Aprilia last year, and he finished second in the championship, winning races. And then this year he's struggling he's around the sort of 15th, 16th, 17th mark, and it just shows the depth of the field. You've got like
that's phenomenal.
Top riders who are like really, really struggling to get in the points this year. So it's it's a mega field. And I mean, it used to be Superbikes, and then Super Sport was like the sort of second class, like the feeder class.
Nah, not anymore.
Where that kind of changed around a little bit, and there's much more depth of field in the Superstock class than there is in the Super Sport class. So yeah, that's sort of changed over the last few years. But that was sort of Snetterton. I just quickly mentioned we had this really weird qualifying session where it was dry all day, and as we went out, it started pissing down. So we quickly put the wet settings, went out. Went down into turn 1, and there was just a massive high side in front, leaving the pits. Then the yellow flags were out here, It was mental. And then red flag. So I didn't even make a lap, and it was red flagged. Poor lad behind us, Rob McNeely, that lovely lad, did nothing wrong, and his high-sided his bike, and it burst into flames. So his pride and joy blew up in flames.
Was he a privateer, or was he racing for a team?
Yeah, no privateer.
His own bike?
Yeah, his own bike.
God.
So, yeah, bless him. But they'll hopefully get that sorted by the next round and be back out. But yeah, like I say, we'll get on to Snetterton later. After Snetterton, this weekend I wasn't riding myself, but I had a kind of weekend of bikes. I popped down to I went to watch Scarborough on Saturday, but on the way I stopped off at Whitbeef. There was a British motocross meeting. And the lad there's a lad doing some work at our house at the moment, Craig Statt. His son was racing. He's only 9-year-old, bless him, little Hayden Statt. He's just moved up to a 65, and that I used to race motocross when I was like 9-year-old.
So one of the first things you put on the podcast.
Yeah,
flipping it off the line.
That's it. So it was like it sort of brought back loads of memories. And since leaving motocross when I was 11, I've only been back once or twice to sort of watch. So it was.
Do you miss it?
Yes and no. Obviously, there's bits that I miss. It was funny taking Emily there as well, because she's only known the road racing. So when we got
that's
there,
her first motocross event then.
Yeah, and obviously you're like pulling up in like a proper, like a real muddy farmer's field.
Your boots
like,
on,
it's like hacky, but it was mint. And just to see, like all the lads and dads, and it was a British meeting, so it's very, very
high
competitive.
End, yeah.
But young Hayden did a grand job. I think he was 6th in qualifying, and it was pissing down as well, so it looked real difficult weather conditions.
So what's the depth of field like? No, just curious. When you're saying he finished 6th.
So there's like 30 lads, and he's just stepped up on the like a British standard. So I mean, when I was doing motocross, I was like. I think my best sort of year, I was 5th in the Northeast, but that would equate to being like last at British type of thing. There's a huge depth where he's like winning British and then coming like doing well he's winning Northeast and then doing well at British. So
fair play,
good. And then straight after that, I went down to Oliver's Mount to obviously the return of the racing there. It was my first time at the circuit in Scarborough. So drove down into Scarborough town centre and then up onto the hill, got parked up and had a good few hours there, seen some familiar faces, and popped down to the little cafe in the paddock. Have you been there before?
I've raced there.
Oh, have you?
So, all right, curiosity, because obviously everyone kind of says the same thing. They can't believe the track. Obviously, you see it on board, you see it on videos and stuff like that. But what was your first initial opinion on that track? Like just visually looking at it as
when I first got there, I could hear the noise, and I looked over the wall, and there was the sidecars were out, and I was just my first thing was, how on earth do these guys pass each other? Because it's so narrow. Obviously, on a solo,
tight as a nun's nick a leg, young'un. That's what it is.
On a solo, you can imagine you can always find a gap or push someone wide or whatever. Where on the sidecars, it looked like they were pretty much the width of the track. So yeah, very very tight. And it was, other than that, I would say it was kind of what I expected. Weather conditions when I got there were a bit patchy, so like they were doing sort of parade laps and stuff. But I got to see the classic superbike race, which Dean Harrison won. Lee Johnson was there.
Dominated, you mean?
Yeah, he dominated.
Absolutely because he never went on a 600, did he? Dean Harrison.
No. So Lee Johnson won the 600 race,
followed by my man, Mike Norbury. This is Mike Norbury. You are my absolute hero. Good lad. Big shout out to Mike. I'm going to say it one more time. Mike Norbury. My boy.
There was, I think there was I didn't go Sunday, but there was an attendance of, I think, about 15,000, which for its first meeting back, I think was probably better than what most people would expect.
Considering the weather they had.
And obviously it's quite a tight place, so 15,000, I presume, would have felt like quite busy.
Because I remember one year at the Gold Cup, now the thing is, the end of the year, and the biggest problem with the Scarborough meeting was the fact that it's competing against other meetings. You know, people are doing like their own club race and everything like. You see, the Gold Cup at the end of the year, nothing else is happening. Mm-hmm. So people are going, oh, mate, I'm doing nothing. Let's go watch that. You know, because obviously Gold Cup was competing against club meetings as well as the Armoy road races. You know, in Northern Ireland there. So it was just. And a lot of lads, you get a split field. Don't you?
A lot of lads like yourself had already committed to doing Armoy, so.
Exactly.
And I think there was a few lads that pulled out last minute because of the for different reasons. Like Jamie Coward pulled out. Phil Crow pulled out on the classic Suzuki.
Yeah.
No, with the classic TT coming up, I think the prior
3 weeks.
Yeah,
3 weeks away. So you can imagine a lot of these teams obviously keep an eye on the weather, and that's the reason for Jamie Coward. Obviously, his super twin. Obviously he had a big crash at the Southern, as we know. The bike wasn't up and running in time. I think the team, don't get me wrong, would have done, tried their best, but money only goes so far, doesn't it?
Also, like I say, I wasn't there on the Sunday, but just sort of watching the Facebooks and all that type of stuff, I seen that there was a exotic parade where close to £3 million worth of bikes took to the track. The star riders included World Superbike legend and TT winner Carl Fogarty, who took to the grid with good friend and former Oliver's Mount lap record holder James Whittam and TT king John McGuinness. So I think that would have been a spectacular thing to see, and sort of
seeing all them lads in. It just shows what the sport means to them as well. If they didn't like the place, they would have gone, doesn't matter how much money you chuck at them, they would just gone, I'm not going, screw that. But obviously that's how much Oliver Mount means to people. And obviously it was great to have such a strong turnout, considering they had a lot of forces they were fighting against, not just the weather and other events, blah, 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 blah.
So, all in all, great job by the organisers. The track looked good, it was well kept, and I think obviously the amount of work that went on behind the scenes to get it back, the racing back there is massive. Like, people really don't appreciate what's going on behind the scenes. So,
and like you say, it got going.
Yeah, exactly.
All this hearsay, this and that, and people were actually full on slagging it off, going, look, it's not going to happen. It happened. And they did a fantastic job of it, so fair play to them, like you say. Absolutely fair play to them.
Yeah, that's it. So that I guess that's one of the topics. Ticked off.
Tick, young'un, tick.
Next, we'll go over to Armoy. Obviously, one of your favourite meetings of the year, I think that, isn't it?
Oh, without a doubt. It's one of those places that like all the Irish racing, the national scene. Like, I'm not just saying this. I haven't done a lot of BSB, but it is harder in some ways than others. You get 5 laps to qualify. There's no practice beforehand. You get 5 laps, and a lap round there is like sub 2 minutes.
Right.
So when you wake up on the Friday, get through scrutiny, and obviously 12:30, shut the road, out you go. You get 5 laps on each bike. That's all you get. And obviously, knowledge is key around there. Absolutely, knowledge is key. And when you're competing against these Irish lads who are like, your Sweeneys, your Shields, your McGees, your Paul Jordans, your Dunlops. These lads have been there since God was a lad. And it is so hard just to actually change your mindset. Like when you go to the TT, you get a week of practice. Southern, you get a few days. You get a warm up and everything. But that just shows
you're straight into the thick of it.
Balls deep, straight off the bat. No romance, no buying me dinner, no glass of wine.
No foreplay, just straight
nothing,
into
straight in, bang, full on, commit, young'un. Boom, that's it. And it just in all seriousness, it shows the talent of these lads. The fact that they can just literally roll out of bed and just go off the go lap record pace straight off the bat. And it's definitely highlighted something I need to do, and it's something I'm improving on. But I'm going to have to pull my finger out a lot considerably more to get up to their pace.
Well, all in all, obviously we'll talk about your results, but overall, were you pleased with how the weekend went and how you rode, results?
Oh, definitely. It was a case of, we put it on pole on both classic bikes, with the Davies team. The bikes are absolutely phenomenal. It was a case of first time the team have been at an Irish meeting. And no, they thoroughly enjoyed it because I was worried. I was crap my pants, to be fair.
Were Colin and John there?
Colin and John, the whole team. I think everyone brought their dogs as well. I think it was a busy camp, and obviously Piggy. Shout out to Piggy. But bearing in mind that little rolling barrel of fun, he just turned up on the Saturday when everything was packed up. He just turned up and went, "So what's the crack, lads?" Like, "Oh, everything's been done. We've qualified. You just sit down, and make yourself comfy, princess." How does that sound? So Piggy, I know you'll be listening. Screw you. Love you to bits, though, mate. Thank you very much. But no, it's a case of Armoy. It is definitely, without a doubt, the best national meeting on the calendar, and I love them all. I do, and they're all brilliant, absolutely brilliant. But when you think, people like the list I gave you before, Dunlop keeps going back. It just shows the class of the event, and it's getting stronger and stronger and stronger. We put it on pole in 2. We improved massively on the big bike, and the 600 shit the gearbox out.
Yeah, I seen that. Yeah,
but
so
mechanicals happen, as Chrissy.
Exactly. Qualified pole on both the classics, and then was it 7th on the big bike?
7 on the big bike.
And did you qualify in the 6, or did it
qualified
blow?
in the 6? When did I qualify?
Was it around that sort of?
It was around about. It was 8th or something like that.
Yeah,
so
inside the top 10. So I would say that's a quality qualifying for you. And then going into the races, obviously your 600 shit its gearbox out, and also you had a bit of a technical on the 350 as well.
Oh, that was it. I'll tell you what, that was definitely a lesson learned. Out of all the bikes, you think, right, the 350 is solid. Now there's a little circlip on the 350 K4s. Now, sometimes they can just break. You've obviously got a groove just sitting off the gear shaft. That's right. And sometimes they can just wear a little bit too much and they can just pop off. Now, I'm sitting on the line, looking up the light. I've qualified 2 seconds quicker than everyone else. I can taste the money in my mouth, Chrissy. I'm thinking that going. I tell you what, I'm feeling that rich. I might buy some olives on the way home. You know what I mean? Thinking, I've got this. Sitting there, King Dick. Look at the lights drop. Release the clutch, nothing. Bah! Who looked like a massive dick but me? There we are. I was gutted.
When you say nothing, were you stood like a sitting duck, or did you just pull away slowly?
No, it was a case of I just and just lost. But you see, I just gave it enough throttle to keep it going, so I didn't get rammed. Obviously,
I was going to say, because that's very dangerous when there's obviously a pile up on the start.
But in Irish racing, they do waves. It's kind of a timed event in Irish racing, so you get 3 rows in each wave.
Yeah.
But still, like you say, I was sitting on pole, so I had 2 other rows of lads coming howling up behind me. But no, I just sat there, just got it off the line and got going, and obviously I had no clutch to get it round, so I had to kind of toot around. Obviously got my hand up, and hopefully not getting in the way of anyone. But we made it up in the 500. We won the Frank Kennedy races.
Brilliant, well done.
Because Bill Kennedy, who was the clerk at the course, he lost his brother at the Northwest 240 years ago.
Right.
Which is a long time, and obviously, every family would miss their loved ones. But to put up this race, and Bill put the prize money up personally, and we went out and brought home the cheddar young'un on the 500. Don't get me wrong, I was shitting myself because I'm thinking I've knocked the 350 and I don't want to knock the 500. But no, the the inline Honda 4 was sounding absolutely orgasmic through, like, because obviously you've got a lot of like acoustics around the course because it's so tight, and the noise just reverberates all the way down the track. It's just absolutely classic. And hear every gear change you do. It's just an amazing track. And anyone, if I was going to recommend an event to go spectate, obviously you've got your Northwest, you've got your Ulster, but if you want a quiet, quick weekend, you know, your Friday, Saturday, that's when the event runs on. I cannot recommend the Armoy enough. Plus, it's got 4 pubs around the track, so if you want to go and get smashed, you're laughing.
Good. And you were saying earlier for the first year this year they didn't run Miss Armoy.
Chrissy, that is still a nerve, right? You're hitting here, right? The reason I first went is because I had this Miss Armoy competition. You've got the Hinnies going up and down, the Irish Hinnies up and down, boy, gorgeous the things are. No Miss Armoy this year.
What's the crack there?
What's the crack there?
Political correctness?
I tell you, political correctness, or there's been some... Basically, a bloke's come home, called his wife fat. She's got insecure and gone, right, I don't want any modelling at road racing anymore. That something's happened on an indiscriminate rate. The fact that... Just, what the fuck, man? Just give people the right to walk around in teeny tiny skirts, man. What does me head in, Chrissy? You know, just it does me head in. You've hit a nerve. You've hit a nerve.
I tell you what, moving on. I seen on your Twitter feed that you retweeted. It looked like a exceptionally sort of touching moment of an injured medic who got injured last year at the event. Would you tell us about that?
Yeah, Dr. Alistair McSorley, like Ali Mac there. You know, he's on Twitter. It's I'm gonna have to look that while I'm discussing it now.
Well, you retweeted the thing, didn't you?
I retweeted on my personal page, but I'll have to retweet it on the Chase and the Racing one. But Ali Mac 50, yeah, this is going to do me head in. Absolutely. But anyway, he's a travelling doctor. You know, he's and last year he went round on the course. Now the travelling doctors sit behind the grid. Obviously, they've gone out for their sighting lap beforehand. Now it was absolutely howling down with rain. Now when he's come over the Joey Dunlop jumps. Now, bearing in mind the racing's not active at this point, so he's come over the brow. Now, the paramedic, like the ambulance, the paramedic is pulled up on the other side of the blind side of this jump. Now, Dr. Alistair has come over the brow and gone straight into the back of this stationary vehicle. Unfortunately, he's been paralysed from the waist down.
Bloody hell.
But, you know, honestly, you wouldn't think he was upset. You know, he's so positive about the sport, and he is such a positive, like, what's the word?
Ambassador.
He really is an ambassador for the sport. And what he did there was he came back from an injury, and he's finally completed his lap. But he hasn't gone round in the car. He's gone round on a modified Triumph 675, and he completed his own lap. And now he can obviously look up his story on BBC Northern Ireland. You know, you'll see the link
on the Twitter.
Good lad, you switched on there. But honestly, there is an inspiring human being, not just for the sport, just an inspiring human being.
For life in general.
It really is. You know, just because he's been injured doing something he loved, he hasn't gone bit or twisted. And a lot of people do that. You know, they find something to blame. He hasn't. Now, don't get me wrong. He's gone through his personal hells. How can he not? He's had a life-changing injury. But what an outstanding human being. But he's definitely worth a look up.
I bet it was a very special moment anyway to see him complete that lap, and I'm sure it was quite emotional.
Oh, the hedgerows, everyone was leaning over. They absolutely, you could hear the applause from the paddock. You know, all the way around the lap. You know,
so as well, yeah.
4 lap. You know, it's a 4 mile lap, and you can hear everyone clapping all the way around. You thought. Outstanding human being, mate.
And speaking of emotional, heroic efforts, obviously, how can we not mention the old Michael Dunlop return 2 weeks after his big crash at the Southern 100, and he goes out and wins did he get 2 or 3 wins?
Wait, he won on the 8th time. It's the 8th consecutive row, isn't it?
Right.
And I'm trying to think how long's it been going. I think the event's been going 11 years.
Right, okay.
And he broke his brother's record, Williams' record.
Right.
And Williams set that on his own 600, which is an outstanding lap. And I'm trying to think how long that held. But anyway, Michael went out, and obviously he had a huge high side, absolutely humongous high side at the 700. Now I'm a Michael Dunlop fan. I respect everyone, but no, this is a touchy issue that's going to get a few people wound up on this podcast here, Chrissy. But the fact is, don't get me wrong, he's got injuries, but broken pelvis riding like that. Now, I've met people with broken pelvises, and it's not bust. There's no way it's bust. To go out and do them lap times, unless they're getting getting stuff directly from China, which is like crack heroin on the highest class. I don't know, but there's no doubt the lad will be injured. But a broken pelvis, I doubt. I do doubt, mind. And obviously, a few people are on the old Twitter and Instagram is doubting that.
Yeah.
But like I say, I am a Dunlop fan, and yes, he will be injured. What he's done is phenomenal, injured or uninjured. It is outstanding, but it's just like, it's absolutely mad, man. It's absolutely mad. Now, let me put you. Now, I follow a lad on Twitter there, called Hardy Breed, and he put out there saying, "I've seen dairy farmers do less milking." So you can imagine the world is split down the middle. Absolutely split down the middle on this one, Chrissy. What's your thoughts, young'un?
Well, like you said, like you've just said, injured or not injured, it's a phenomenal performance, and to see him back winning, and especially after the what he's been through, is absolutely phenomenal. And like, he clearly is, very hurt, because seeing him step onto the bike with that stepper and limping around with his crutches and stuff. But like you say, I've never broke my pelvis before, but I've had fractured bones, like literally little fractures, and you can't bear any weight whatsoever on them whatsoever. So, there's different degrees. You can have like a split, like real, like proper what we would call a break, and you can have it like other injuries, like sort of like a green stick fracture or whatever. So you can't say to what
degree of the injury
exactly.
Now,
but and I know
people read what they want to Sorry, people read what they want to read on social media. You know what I mean? But the fact that people keep saying it's broken. It's not broken. I'm missing a digit, as we all know, and I broke my entire right hand. But it's amazing what adrenaline does. But there is a line. There is a line. Paul Jordan was there, and bloody hell, mate, the drama in this sport's phenomenal, right? Now, I was like my 600 packed in, so I didn't see the result. But obviously, when I saw the end of it, McGee and Paul Jordan had a collection. I'm not talking about for charity here. I'm talking about the smacked into each other going into the chicane.
Well, it was a photo finish of the line, wasn't it?
Aye, but without a photo though. This is what I've heard. It's mad. I don't know. I think there's still discrepancies about who actually won that race.
Well, when the first went over, the race was actually given one way, and then it got corrected. It got corrected back.
So what's all that about? We've got another issue that we're going to talk about later on in the endurance here. But the world of just politics is phenomenal. But like Paul, bless him. Now he's just had his broken his thumb at Anglesey. And I mean, broke his thumb. I mean, he had pins in the job, and he's just had the pins out. And the lad he's done phenomenal. Now, he's on a fantastic bit of 600. I mean, it's that fast the paint was coming off the bloody thing, man. I'm telling you. And he did a fantastic job. But to end his weekend like that is just
so. What exactly did he get injured when he got knocked off?
I've no idea. I never really saw Paul after that, but obviously I've spoken to him, over the old face tube and stuff like that.
What was his take on it?
Well, he didn't really go in discussion of that, but it was a case he was very much still very hungry for the Ulster Grand Prix, so he's not injured enough to pack it in. So he'll definitely beat the Ulster. But no, I can imagine him being a little bit pissed off, and so of his sponsors. But the thing about the Armoy is the second you cross the line, you're nearly at 300 yards, you're right under the brakes. Even on a 6, yourself, Chrissy, you're just absolutely hossing, to get that, and then going into that tight chicane, I don't know what's happened.
Was there much damage to his bike when he went?
Where it went scuttling down the hill, didn't it? Because the chicane drops off. This is road racing, young, and there's no kitty litter or nothing, so the bike's gone howling off down the hill, so is very pretty, very fast, very fast. 600s, been a bit like
The
second
second
hand.
hand.
So,
Oh.
but don't get me, I know Paul would have been out on that race if the bike was fine.
Yeah.
Obviously, the bike must have
Also,
a lot of damage.
he missed the next race because of
Yeah,
this?
yeah. So he didn't. That was the Friday it happened.
Bloody
So
hell.
Saturday he had to miss out.
Oh, that's not good then, is it? But he'll be
No.
back at the Ulster.
Oh, without a doubt, without a doubt. The lad. Like I've like I say, I've spoken to him a couple of times, and no, he'll be there. He'll be there fighting strong, and he's on with the Daffer Bet lads on the Stock Fowl 600 and Super Twin. So
Right. Oh, so the full whack.
the full fleet.
Good. And have you any more crack from Armoy? Anything?
No, the fact that there's no Miss Armoy, because we all like them beautiful ladies going up and down the runway, but no.
So no, when you
Still-
finish racing on the Saturdays, do you get hammered on the
I got
Saturday?
hammered, yeah, mate. Right, I got that hammered. It's actually upsetting because obviously, when I got back, I discovered there's a bottle of vodka there. I've realised we're on the podcast here. I thought we were just having a couple of mates having a couple of crack, but anyway, went out, fair few Guinness, a couple of Jack Daniels, ended back up the place I was staying. No bother. Go to the fridge, thinking night still early. There's me and Martin. We're going to carry on the crack. It's a long boat journey. Might as well stay up. Go to the fridge. Find myself a bottle of vodka. Look at Martin. Martin's like, yep, let's have a bit of vodka. I said to Martin, what do you want? He goes, I want orange and vodka. Scouring around the place for hours on end. Couldn't find nothing resembling orange. Then behold to me, I had a flash of genius, Chrissy. This is how you must feel all the time. I open the cupboards up. What do I find? What do I find? Go on, Chrissy. Have a guess. What do I find?
An orange? I don't know.
Nope. I find a Barocca. Right. So me and the young'un poured a couple of vodkas out and popped a Barocca in the vodka.
Nice.
Instant orange vodka. NASA grade vodka orange. Genius. So my top tip from Jason the Racing this week: if you run out of orange, grab a Barocca.
Wait,
There you are.
did you have a drink with Piggy on the way back?
Oh no,
Was it
Piggy was
on
in
the-
the bar,
oh, he's on the
strutting up in his checker top there. He was
dear.
looking hot. He's got a big stick, you know that, don't you?
Hey,
He's got a big stick, you know that, don't
Stick?
you? Big stick.
no, you know
And to beat the women off with. You know what I mean? They just throw him. They throw themselves at him. You know what I mean?
Do you know, I was just thinking, do you know those bit of a sidestep on the old Armoy crack? But do you ever get them Muller corner yogurts in your bait box,
Oh, hi.
like for your snap? Well, I think it was sometime last year or something. As a joke, Piggy, our joint mechanic, as a joke, he wrote Muller a letter and said I've. I love your yogurts. Like, I eat them every day at work for me snap. But all the lads at work are teasing us because when I pour the yogurt into the crispy bits, it's going all over me pants and I'm getting covered in yogurt. And then he signed it off. He signed it off. Peter Haynes, 52 3/4. And the
I can
Muller.
actually believe I'm doing this. as
Muller
well.
sent him a £5 voucher back.
You're joking. You're joking.
And, every time I have a yogurt, I'll have a little giggle to myself.
I'm not being
thinking
funny,
about
but
it.
every one of our listeners has got to start writing in just to get their money back on there.
Yeah.
Oh, that's class, man. Hey, I tell you what, I've got a big fan. Before we move on from the Armoy crack, we had an oil miner who works in Afghanistan.
All right.
He sends his love. You know what I mean? He's
Oh,
like a
very
big
nice.
walking through the paddock going 3, 2, 1. And no, an oil miner from Afghanistan.
I'll have to check. That map thing on the website that I hosted on. It tells you all the countries that it's getting downloaded in.
There we are. We'll have to check that
out
because
now.
that's bearing in mind he's from Northern Ireland, so it doesn't really kind of not hits and glamour on the head, doesn't it? Going, we've got one lad from Afghanistan listening in here.
Well,
A couple of Geordie lads. Imagine him trying to listen to it.
on to BSB Snetterton.
Yes.
Obviously, that was like a week gone, the weekend, if you like. So it seems like the distant past now. But a bit of a Ducati domination over the weekend in the superbike class, and it was more specifically, it was a Scott Redden domination. Obviously, his first time racing at the Snetterton 300 track, and he was fastest from Friday practice, just straight away quickest, and then To be honest, the times in superbikes weren't very impressive compared to previous years. I think Shaky Burns done a 46.0 around there, and this year they were low 47s, so they were a fair bit off the sort of best ever pace for some reason. I don't know why. But
was that weather?
It could be weather, tyres. It could be anything. I think the weather was pretty decent, to be honest, but I don't know. I don't know what the problem was, but times in superbikes were a little bit off. But like I say, Redden rode extremely well all weekend, dominated the races. Brooks followed him home as well in both races. Mackenzie got a podium in one, and Bridewell got the podium in the other, and they both crashed out of the other respective races.
And speaking of crashing, what's Jason O'Halloran up to?
I know I obviously started off as one of the pre-season favourites, fastest all in testing. He should have won that first race at Silverstone, and then he's had loads of mechanical breakdowns, crashes. He's literally having the most disastrous season. He had 3 crashes at Snetterton, crashed twice in qualifying, and it was. I think he was 9th in the first race. Let's just get the results up. And then, where was he in that one? 9th. And crashed in the second one. So having an absolute disastrous year. On the other hand, the person that replaced him at Honda, Andy Irwin, is doing a fantastic job. 4th and 5th over the weekend. And he's closing down Xavier Forés for that illustrious 6th position of the showdown. I think they've got 7 races left before the showdown gets decided, so obviously he'll be doing his best to claw back those points.
Well, speaking of Irwin, because obviously I have no idea for structure in this podcast, but let's put that other fact out there.
Yeah, that I was going to come up. That's my next thing.
Oh, you see, I'm jumping the gun.
Reading me mind. But obviously Glenn Irwin missed Snetterton with a virus infection, but then a few days after,
he's been doing the old Freddie Mercury, has he? He's a famous, you'll get to this point, young'un. Yeah.
And then news got out a couple of days ago that him and the Kawasaki team have parted ways, and then straight away it was he's signed for the remainder of the season with Tygo BMW. So obviously a change of manufacturer, change of team halfway through the season. But obviously he'd already alluded to doing the TT. He's been at the Ulster Grand Prix before. I think he's obviously Northwest man.
Yeah, he's with the right team then.
That sort of step to the Tygo BMW team might sort of work out for him. Obviously, he's
Alan and JG Speedfit still had those connections, though, didn't he?
Yeah,
with Hillier?
To be fair, yeah. But Glenn's having a terrible year this year. He was the bookies' favourite going into the season. Finished 3rd, I think, in the championship last year, and he's had a disaster. There's no other way of putting it. Every round, it's there's something comes out, like a press release,
backwards.
Well, there's a press release saying like, "Oh, we know what the problem is. We'll get it sorted this round," and then it'll be a reason why, there's only so much that can go on. Obviously, we're halfway through the season now, and he hasn't delivered what you would expect, really. So.
He is a talent.
Undoubtedly. You don't finish 3rd in the championship and win BSB races without having, what he did at the Northwest, without the ability. That's unquestionable. But the combination of him and the bike have not clicked at all this year. And obviously, the change to BMW manufacturer and Tygo gives him a sort of second bite at the cherry. It'd be interesting to see what takes place in the second half of the season. Like I just mentioned before, his younger brother Andy's doing a tremendous job on the Honda, and
it's going to be a good chat around the dinner table at Christmas, isn't it? There. And his brother Graham, how was he getting on? Is it Graham?
Yeah. He's doing a good job. He showed very, very promising signs at Knockhill, qualified 9th, and was doing a tremendous job. Then for the last few races, he sort of plateaued around the 20th position, which, it doesn't sound great, but as I was saying earlier, the Superstock class is so strong this year that he's battling with lads that have, won races before and like been on the podium and like top British racers who have, won championships and all kinds. So He's definitely not doing a bad job, but the progression seems to have, plateaued a little bit. But I'm sure that he'll come on stronger towards the end of the season. And what's your? I know you don't really watch much motorbike racing, but what's your take?
I know.
What's your take on Glenn's move? Do you think he'll do much on the new BMW?
No, I think he will. I think
When you say he will, are you saying sort of top 15, top 10, top 6 podiums? Where do you sort of see him fitting in?
top 10s.
Top 10s.
But considering where he's come from,
Yeah,
I think that's the fact. Is everyone's dialed in, the confidence is high. But at the end of the day, someone like Glenn, the Northwest has happened for him. He did shit. Then he went straight up. I keep saying this every time we get on the podcast. Confidence is key in this game.
Mm-hmm.
Riding a bike is in your head more than just ability. And I think this fresh change, you'll get out for a test and go, right, here we go.
For me, I would expect. I think obviously he'll settle in Thruxton. I would expect on a good day. On a good day, I'm expecting him to be around the 5th, 6th position. On a bad day, I would expect him to be around the 15th position. So in that sort of range, and I think it'll average out at around the 10th mark. I think he's a quality actor, and I think he'll probably match Christian in most of the time.
But now that he's got a smash leg,
I tell you what. Speaking of the Tygo team, obviously Michael Laverty stepped in at the weekend. Hasn't rode a bike in anger since the end of last year, and got the last minute call to replace obviously the injured Keith Farmer, and he did a tremendous job. Obviously, brand new bike, stepped in, and he was straight up. Good consistent times. He was 11th in the first race, and where was he? I'll just quickly look through the results.
Class act is always a class act.
Exactly. I can't see him in the second result, but he was very impressive anyway. He did a great job just standing in last minute. So P9 in the second race. So just to jump in a top 10 in BSB, tremendous. So before I move on, I would also like to say a special shout out to a lad in the Superstock 600 category. There was a big accident on race day in the warm-up lap.
I've heard this. Yeah,
A lad called Aaron Clifford. He's an Irish lad, and he's. I don't know exactly what happened, but I think there was some sort of pile up on the warm-up lap, and he's been seriously injured. There was quite a few lads in the crash, but Aaron's the lad that's took the blunt of it, and he got taken away from the circuit in an induced coma, and he was kept in a coma for a good few days. The list of his injuries is massive, and I tell you what, his dad Kenneth put a thing on Facebook the other day. It says he has a number of serious injuries. He has a serious head injury. Both of his cheekbones are broken. His left lung is collapsed. His sternum is broken. He has multiple broken ribs. His left wrist is broken. His right arm and wrist is broken. His left femur is broken. His C7 vertebrae is broken. This is located in the neck, and he also has a dislocated pelvis. So I just want to send all my thoughts and positive wishes to him and the family. Obviously, I wish him all the best with his recovery, and just keep fighting. And
without a doubt, mate.
Yeah, what can you say to that? Must be going through a hell of a time, and
his family and everything. Yeah, and so
And also, there's a GoFundMe page being set up to support his recovery. So if you want. Obviously, it's a fantastic cause. So if you want to give to that, I'll share the link for that.
Yeah, definitely, mate. Definitely.
But that sort of concludes what I had to say about Snetterton anyway. And then finally, this weekend was kind of the weekend for endurance racing. There was the Suzuka 8 Hour over in Japan, which a lot of the BSB lads, World Superbike lads, and just British riders were involved in, top class riders. And also there was a big endurance race, like I said earlier, at Anglesey, the No Limits race. Obviously, Suzuka, massive event. I think there's something ridiculous, like 120,000 or 150,000 people turn up to watch. It's a huge race for the Japanese manufacturers. They take it really seriously. And I don't know if it's just I'm more aware of it, but it seems like the lads from BSB are getting more and more involved. There's
Josh Elliott. I've given you one name, and that's all I've given you.
I'm impressed that you knew anyone that was there, to be honest.
Much, mate. Who's the lad?
Bradley Ray.
That's him, man. Yeah, I'm bloody useless at this, Absolutely bloody
he
useless.
He was teammates with Tommy Bridewell. They were riding the Suzuki.
Oh, the
So
Ducati man.
Yeah.
Oh, that would have gone down well, wouldn't it? Hopping a Suzuki for the
I,
weekend.
I thought that, riding a different manufacturer midway through the season when he's fighting for the championship lead in BSB on a Ducati.
But they are a privateer team at the end of the day, are they?
Well, the Wilf Moore team.
Yeah.
I think, Paul Bird's like the sort of factory team, but then I think the bikes are as good, but...
Oh, no, I'm not doubting the quality of the bikes. I'm just saying which ones... Anyway, that's a different subject for another
time.
time.
Like you said, if I was riding like a Kawasaki, I wouldn't want to go off and ride a BMW for a weekend. I think I would
You need to go riding other things more often, Chris, for me.
But,
Emily, if you listen, I am joking. He loves you to bits.
But speaking of Suzuka, obviously the biggest talking point was the whole Kawasaki Yamaha fiasco at the end. Obviously, 8-hour race, 7 minutes, 58 minutes into the race. Last lap.
What was the lead gap?
Johnny
He
Ray-
literally just showed me it.
I think Kawasaki were win by 20 seconds.
20 seconds after nearly 8 hours.
Johnny Ray was out on the Kawasaki and Alex Lowe's was out on the Yamaha. And all of a sudden, Johnny crashes, and it transpires that he went down on oil, dropped by another bike. Red flags came out, and then obviously there was a big question, similar situation to what happened at Donington. Different, but similar, where there was like a red flag crash.
And went back a result.
Yeah, exactly. But the race got declared Yamaha as victorious because obviously Kawasaki didn't technically finish the race.
They crashed in the... they crashed, so they should be out.
But then the Kawasaki put a complaint in, like a protest. And basically, the rules that stipulate that the bikes have got to come back within 5 minutes, so at World Superbikes, BSB, etc., they don't apply for the FIM Endurance Championship, which is what they were racing in. So they put the rule in, they put the protest in, and after looking through the rule book, it got rechanged so that Kawasaki were awarded the win
after binning it. Obviously, Johnny gutted for Johnny Ray, but he hit oil. Shit happens in this game. But the fact is, he crashed.
Did he
cause
fair,
the red flag though?
No. Well, the oil down caused it, I think.
Aye, but you see what I'm saying? Johnny Ray went down, then the red flag came out. Yeah. So, in theory, yes, the Suzuki caused the crash, but at that point, it wasn't a red flag. Johnny Ray was on the track in a dangerous position, causing the red flag.
I understand what you're saying. The rule book for the FIM, whatever, it says the result will be the results taken at the last point the leader and all the other riders on the same lap as the leader had completed a full lap without the red flag being displayed. So essentially go back a lap. However, there's no clause in which states that they have to be on track when the red flag comes. So basically it goes back a lap, and it doesn't matter whether if you've crashed in that time period.
So if I was leading the World Endurance event, took the front, set my bike on fire in the middle of the track and caused a red flag, I would win.
If you were leading,
yep.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean,
Chrissy, I'm going to put this very blunt. Fancy doing a bit of a 8-hour endurance race
in a really twisted way.
That's exactly right.
I'm just trying to think. If you were say if you were leading and you had wet tires on, and the track had dried out, and you were getting caught, and you knew that if you stayed out, you were going to lose. It would be worth going over the line as a leader and then crashing and lying on the track, getting the race red flagged, and then it would get declared a result, and it would go back a lap. So, obviously, that rule that's in BSB and World Superbikes is there for that reason, but.
So if there's any endurance fans out there that want to go racing and you want to get an international, Suzuki 8 hours, Chrissy, I'm not made of money, but I'll put the money up front for the bike, right? If you pay for the flights, we'll go win the Suzuki 8 hours next year, right? But let's not tell. Wait a minute, we just told everyone on the podcast, so we're scuffed.
Anyway, the Kawasaki team won, Yamaha factory second, and Red Bull Honda third. So, like I say, there was let's have a look. 64 teams involved. Massive. Did you see the picture of Bradley Ray leading into turn 1?
No.
Bradley Ray got the whole shot. It's a hell of a picture. Obviously leading like Leon has like loads of the top riders
In the world.
in the world. Yeah, so spot on. Have you got any more crack then?
Well, no, just like round up what the road racing scene's doing. You know, as a case of like it's
How are the standings looking?
the stands looking. Well, obviously Derek Shields has won the Irish Superbike Championship, but
Has he?
where we're looking at for the
Is that with a round to go?
with a round to go, because obviously McGee stuffed it big time. Like absolutely big time in a really big way. God love him. Obviously that was through the Isle of Man, so we had to sit a few rounds out. But we're looking at, with the Motor 3, Gary Dunlop is winning that. Lightweight Supersport is Stephen Morrison's, but he had a big crash, unfortunately, at Armoy. Obviously he's still with us, which is the main thing. And we're looking for the Super Twins. We're looking at Mick O'Swino, Ted himself. Junior Supersport is Vinnie Brennan. Oh, he's going to kill me if I get that wrong. Senior Sport, Andy McAllister. Supersport, Darryl Tweed, who's doing an amazing job. And obviously, like I said before, Superbike, Derek Shields, he's with one more round to go. There's no catching him there. You know what I mean?
Oh, so cool. I tell you what, you've done a grand job of filling a bit of time there, because my mum's had his bloody
biking away.
Cleaning the garden out, and it started up with like, oh, can you take this little pile to the tip? And then the next day I turned around and there's like 3 van loads all piled up. So I've been doing tip runs, and
he's fly tipping. That's what he's been doing.
The back of my van with insects. So me bloody alarm's going off in your sister's street there, probably waking up all the neighbours. So apologies about that, but yeah, spot on. And before we wrap up, obviously I would like to say a massive thank you to the sponsors for the podcast, In Contango Training. Also, remember, we mentioned the competition at the beginning of the podcast, but we're running a competition. So obviously we've got a Twitter platform, and we've also got a Facebook platform. So we're at Motorbike Pod on Twitter and Just Chasing the Racing Podcast on Facebook. So on either of those platforms, if you can send in funny selfies, so creative selfies, something motorbike related. If
you want to send a dick pic, you've got to send that personally to his page. I'm not entertaining that one bit.
So if you're on Twitter, if you just tweet it and put at Motorbike Pod, so we'll see it, and on Facebook we'll put a status, and you can put it in the thread of that. But send us in some selfies, and we'll pick the funniest
live on Twitter or Facebook. Like do the reveal, get the throw a name out so it doesn't look totally corrupt.
We'll pick the best one. So if send us some in, and we'll retweet some, and we'll have a good laugh with that. Definitely. And that is to win the lovely Billy Art A3
Johnny Ray
print for Johnny Ray, which is a fantastic picture. I'll put it out on the Twitter. And I think that's about us. Obviously, as I always say, huge thanks for all the 5-star ratings on the old iTunes.
That's all we're accepting, Chrissy. That's why. That's
we
all
really
we're
appreciate it. And
my personal note, thank you to everyone on the Bomb Squad. High Side PR for that information about the Irish standings. Obviously, you've got your people, I've got mine. So a big shout out to High Side, Jeffrey there. So God love you.
Spot on. And are you down at the North Yorkshire? Is that tomorrow?
That's tomorrow.
Jamie Whittam, are you going?
Yeah, definitely. And then I'm at Donington Park this weekend on the CRMC, and then straight over to the Ulster.
Oh, fantastic.
And then
what are you riding in the CRMC?
The 500, the 350, and we're special little Yamaha to try and go beat John McGuinness on.
Oh, so there fantastic,
we go. It's plenty to be on with.
Best of luck, and really look forward to hearing about that next week.
Good luck at Thruxton, young'un, because that's where you are.
Thruxton, fastest track in the country.
Good lad.
I think the average lap speed record is 113 mile an hour, which I know sounds shit for a road race. But that is the fastest.
Even I'm quicker than that, Chrissy. What's the matter with you?
That's the fastest circuit in the UK, like short circuit in the UK. So really looking forward to that. Get stuck in, and obviously we'll get a podcast in next week. Are you about on the evenings?
I'm not.
Next week.
Not next week. I'm at the Ulster.
Oh, right. So
I do apologise.
Donington at the weekend, straight out to the Ulster, and then we'll get a podcast in the following week.
Yeah, the following week.
So it'll be another two-week break, all thanks to Dom.
I know, it's all my fault, kids. It's all my fault. But then I'm off to the Classic TT, so we'll have to be very quick.
Right, we'll squeeze one in there, and I tell you what, if we'll squeeze one in there, can you please make us a promise that you won't keep us waiting 40 minutes in the car?
That's your fault, young'un. That's your fault. And
Right,
the alarm's kicking off outside my house, so this is not very clever.
Right, we'll wrap this up. So thanks very much, and we'll look forward to getting a pod in a couple of weeks. Cheers, guys.
Being emotional.
Cheers.